Okay, today's a new day. I feel much better after a good night's sleep. As predicted, the concrete table is just fine and dandy. Glassy finish, bubble-free, ready for its next pour. The wooden table, come and have a look. As predicted, the bubbles haven't disappeared. The resin has cured too much for the bubbles to naturally go away. So, having taken some advice, what we're going to do is manually, by hand, drill out each bubble so that the next pour of resin will fill that gap. That's going to make the bubbles slightly bigger, but that's good because a slightly bigger gap will accept resin more readily, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the table is rescuable and you won't be able to see what we've been doing. So we've got some bubbles to drill. So I've drilled these ones already. That's the effect we're looking for. There's another one to do here, just under the surface. Carefully. There's no way I'm putting a power tool on this. No good can come of that. But that, a little bit more, I think. That's what we're after. So we're going to clean all of these once they've all been drilled out, and then hopefully, the next pour of resin will help me forget about this chapter. Bubbles are all drilled. What we've done is decanted a small amount of our mixed resin into a suitably sized container. Now, we don't really know if this is going to work, so rather than flooding the whole thing and keeping our fingers crossed, we're going to test it on these bubbles here. The idea is that this new resin will fill these holes up, and as if by magic, they will vanish. So we don't know what's going to happen. Let's have a go. Now, like I just said, I had no idea what was going to happen. As far as I was concerned, drilling holes in my beautiful clear resin and expecting them to magically vanish by putting resin in the holes was just, well, impossible. It was never going to result in anything other than a disaster, and an unrecoverable one at that. But I'm going to call that winning. I am going to call that winning. That is good news. That gives me confidence to carry on. Bubbles eliminated. Thankfully, I will sleep a little bit easier tonight. So we're going to go ahead and put 6 litres, our first 6 litre batch on top of this now. Slowly. I'm going to go slowly. Maybe I was a bit too keen and a bit fast last time. So we're going to dial back the pace at which I'm pouring this resin. Let's go for it. Some more of these tools are about to disappear. Slowly, bowler. I think that these tape measures are going to give us a bit of a bubbly headache in the fullness of time. We did fill them full of resin, but I can't totally convince myself that we eliminated all potential problems. But if bubbles do present themselves again, at least we have a method in which to fix them. Stress levels are high. Got another 6 litres to put in this now, and then another couple of days to wait. Let's get mixing. Okay, so far so good. That last 6 litres is in. No bubbles have presented themselves yet. So we're going to top it up, so then we've got 12 litres going off, just like we have throughout the whole project. I think with this one, we're going to see pretty much most of the tools not disappear because it's clear resin, but certainly be covered. Be interesting to see if those screwdrivers present any bubbles, because we did spend a lot of time sealing those up and filling them up, so we'll see how good a job we did. It's difficult to know how good a job you've done when you've never done it before. We've been adding to this every time we've poured over on the tables, just so we can keep tabs on Well, it just gives us something to poke and prod without risk of damaging what we're really doing. It's been quite useful, really. Because if I poke this and it damages it, it doesn't matter, but it gives me an indication as to how far the tables have gone off. Right, we're going to let that settle, we're going to let it flow. These bubbles on top, I've spoken a lot about bubbles, but they are part of this project. These bubbles on top, we're going to heat gun those off. They are causing me no stress whatsoever. That is not new news. So, concrete table is about to receive 2 rounds of 6 litres, and I think most of these drill bits, etc., will then be under resin. Perhaps not these big ones and perhaps not this chisel here, but most of them will end up covered. Right, this is the last pour of the day, the second 6 litre batch going into the concrete table. I'm pretty sure most things are going to be under cover now. Oh, just looks so good. So good. If it's satisfying to watch from wherever you're watching, imagine how satisfying it is to be actually doing it. Just let that dribble out. I want every last drop out of this because it's expensive. Okay, it is just over 24 hours since the last pour. I've come back to the workshop. It's quite late at night again, but I can report we have no bubbles on the concrete table, which is good news. That means we can keep progressing forwards in a timely manner. I'm anticipating the next pour to be in about 24 hours time. On the wooden one, well, let me show you. So the resin is currently in a kind of a gel state. It's not gone firm. So what I'm hoping is that if I pop this bubble with this pin, what I'm hoping is that over the course of the next hour or so, that will self-heal, self-fill. This happened a couple of times on the last pour and it worked. Hopefully I've caught it just in time. I was expecting those Allen keys to give me a bit more of a headache. I can cope with that. Worst case scenario, we drill it and fill it, but I'm quietly confident that that will self-fill. It's beginning to feel a little bit like I should have a bed in the workshop because I have spent a massive amount of time in here babysitting these tables. So we're getting ready for another pour, not the final pour. I think there's still 2 or 3 more after this one. It's not quite clear yet, but what we've noticed here is where the last 2 pours joined, you can just see a slight bit of milky residue. We hope 2 things. 1, that it's just on the surface, and 2, that the resin has cured sufficiently well to be able to sand it off. So we're going to do that. As with every process we've been through so far, this is extremely nerve-wracking. Right, first 6 litres. You'll be able to see these scratches disappear now. Is it going to cover everything up with this pour? That drill bit there is sticking up at the moment. Oh. It is very satisfying. This will never get old, I don't think. Right, second 6 litre batch going into the concrete table. One other thing that is causing me a little bit of stress at the moment is the amount of resin that we've got left. Today is December 21st. Pretty much all retail outlets and businesses have shut now, and we need to get this resin poured before the new year, which means there is no opportunity to buy any more resin. We've got what we've got. I'm hoping that we've got enough. If we have, that's good. If we haven't, well, that's a problem. Before we crack on and pour some more resin in the wooden table, these 3 tape measures, I suspect, are going to give us a headache in terms of bubbles. We did fill them up as best as we could, but it was challenging. We've just got to get on with it. We've just got to get on with it, pour the resin in and deal with the bubbles if, probably when they present themselves. So, fingers crossed. 6 litres going in. I'm pretty sure that those tape measures are still going to be poking out the resin, but we'll find out when we tip the next 6 litres in, before we have to wait another couple of days. There's lots of little holes in the concrete lintels. The plan with this table is to completely flood the top of this so that the finished surface, the bit that you touch, the bit that you feel, is just resin. But we're concerned that these, if we just pour resin all over it, are just going to bubble up perpetually and cause us real headaches. So we've kept a little bit of resin back from that last wooden table pour, and we're just going to go round and start to fill these up, which is going to be time consuming, but it has to happen. Final pour of the day. Are the tape measures going to disappear? I don't think they will. I don't think they will, but we're about to find out. Oh, it's getting full now. It is getting full now. I want every last dribble out of this. Oh, 2 of them look like they might do. So that's it. We've got another 2 to 3 day torturous wait, stressful wait whilst this goes off. I expect I'll be back checking on it late at night, as I have been. I kind of can't help myself really. Perfection would be to just sleep here, but that's not very practical, is it? Anyway, see you in a couple of days. So today is December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas, and the tables are ready for another pour. Actually, we probably could have done it yesterday, but we had some celebrating to do, didn't we, Mark?
Yes.
We did. So we did that. We're in the workshop this morning, mixing more resin. Is this going to be the last pour?
I don't know.
I don't think it will be. We're going to find out anyway. 12 litres in each table. Here we go. Question is, are we going to finally see the disappearance of these tapes? 6 litres going in. Oh, it's going to be close. Look how close it is to the edge of the top of the wood. Oh, it's close. There's another 6 to go in this yet. We have covered all of the tools. The biggest tape measure, the highest tool, is now about 3 to 4 millimeters underneath the surface of the resin. So in a couple of days' time, which unfortunately is Christmas Day, I'm going to come back out here and put another probably 6 litres so that the resin actually flows over the top of the oak. It'll look a bit of a mess, but it doesn't matter. We want plenty of coverage so that when we go back to the CNC machine, we don't CNC into the top of that tape measure. That would be bad. Over to the drill bit concrete table. We've got a challenging situation in terms of finishing the top of this concrete. Perfection will be to polish the concrete, but we haven't got access to a surface grinder, so that really isn't a thing, given the fact that we are quickly running out of time to complete these tables. So we've decided to flood the whole concrete, and then we're going to have a polished resin surface that you can see everything through across the entire tabletop. What that means is that we've still got quite a lot more resin to pour into this one, at least another 2 full pours, because we need a decent layer of resin over the top of the concrete, and currently it's not full yet. So 12 litres going in. Yet more resin. These tables are swallowing up an enormous amount. So it is about 10:30 p.m. on December 23rd. I've just come back to the workshop to do a late night check. I'm not on camera because I'm in my pyjamas, it's that late, but I just wanted to say we're looking good. We're all right. We're bubble free. We're crystal clear. There's nothing major to report on, which is good news. That is me checking out for the night. I will catch it with you probably on Christmas Day, because that is the day that the next pour, hopefully the final pour, has fallen on. See you then. So today is Christmas Day, which is why I'm wearing festive red. Vegetables are getting prepared back at the house, family is on its way, time is of the essence, so I'm going to crack on and pour what I think is going to be the last layer of resin in the wooden table, and then another 12 litres in the concrete table. I'm going to get on because I can't say I'm not in trouble for being in the workshop on Christmas Day. But it is what it is. When you're into these projects, you're into them, and the days of the week are, well, they are what they are. So, first 6 litres is mixed. Pretty sure this is going to be the last one. In it goes. I've really enjoyed pouring all this resin. Although I can't say I'm going to be sad when it's finished, because I'm not bored of it, but we've only got till the 20th of January and there's still a lot to do. And these, once this is full, these have to sit for 7 full days, I think, to cure before we can start and take them out of the mould and think about the next chapter, getting them flattened, finishing them off, putting the legs on. There's still loads to do, absolutely loads to do. This might not even need the full 6 litres. I think we'll tip it in anyway, just for good measure. There we go. Right, I'm going to quickly mix up another 12 litres for the concrete table, and then I better get back and start helping prep veg. So today is Boxing Day. I have just come down to the workshop to check on the tables. Fairly standard procedure given what I've been up to, and just as I thought, the concrete table was the one that was going to behave itself beautifully from start to finish. Not so much. Let me turn the camera around and I will show you. So the last layer of resin got poured yesterday morning, Christmas morning, and I came in 24 hours later, so this morning, and found a moth trapped in the resin. It went for a paddle. It didn't go well. I fished it out and you can clearly see where I've been. So what I'm hoping is that that blemish is not a complete disaster. There is still some more resin to pour into the concrete table. The wooden one is full. The concrete one needs a bit more, just a little bit of extra coverage. It's a bit lean at one end, probably down to the fact that it's not perfectly level, but that doesn't matter. More on that in the fullness of time. What I'm hoping, sincerely, is that that moth hasn't caused me a major headache. I can sand out where the moth has been, where it was, and when I pour over the top with the last layer of resin, that will magically disappear, much like some of the bubbles that we've had to drill out. Okay, the last pour has cured sufficiently well for me to be able to do a bit of sanding on where that moth landed. Hopefully, I can get it out and then finally pour the last bit of resin in the concrete table. Let's see what happens. I'm hoping that with a bit of gentle work, with some fine sandpaper, I can flatten that off to a satisfactory fashion so that when I pour the last bit of resin, finally the last bit of resin, you'll never know that a moth decided to go paddling overnight. Here we go. This is the last bit of resin to go in, and I've got to tell you, I am now bored of mixing resin. I've lost count of how many litres we've mixed, but it is well over 150. Anyway, ain't nothing to it but to do it. Let's go. The bucket's stuck to the floor. Last one. Let's hope that moth, or the evidence of that moth, disappears. Oh, it's going to be full now. It is going to be full now. There we go. Let that spread and leave it for 7 days. Nothing happens now for 7 days. Then it gets a bit more exciting because we take the oak, the wooden table, back to the CNC machine to get flattened. And I'm very much looking forward to that. So today is January the 7th. Christmas is done. The resin has gone off. I haven't been out to these tables for 2 or 3 days. I haven't felt it necessary to come and check on them. The resin's gone off. Everything is fine. Apart from, we do have a small issue, situation. Let me show you. Come here. So everything is fine and dandy apart from the handles on the screwdrivers. You can see they've developed kind of a bit of a murkiness. It kind of looks like micro bubbles. It's the same on the chisel handle, and it's also the same on this hammer handle. We've spoken to Milwaukee. They've said, fellas, look, there's nothing can be done. Nothing could have been predicted. Don't worry about it. Carry on, which is a bit of a relief. Although myself and Mark, who's behind the camera, are both absolutely heartbroken because up to press, we have had nothing but absolute perfection. I don't think there's anything we can do. I think it's one of those things. We don't know what it is. We certainly don't know what's caused it. We definitely couldn't have avoided it. It is what it is. Globally speaking, they still look absolutely fantastic. Today's job, though, is to take the tables out of their molds, which I'm a little bit nervous about because we sprayed all that release agent in all those weeks ago, and today is the day that we find out if it's worked. If it's worked, that's good news. If it hasn't, that's a problem. Last screw. Rubber mallet, right. Oh. It's putting up a bit of a fight. It has released. Happy days. So far, the release agent is doing its thing. Okay, so far so good. The next challenge is a weight issue because this is, well, how heavy is it, Mark?
About 200 kilos at least.
Slightly heavier than one of Saturn's moons. Has Saturn even got moons?
I don't know, it's got rings.
Well, if Saturn had moons, you understand what I'm talking about. It's really, really, really heavy. We've got to get it off its base. So let's tackle that. We're just going to press pause on the concrete one. We're just going to pause that. It's just sat there, sitting pretty. And we're going to get the wooden one with the hand tools in, out of its mould and into the van and on the way to the CNC machine. Then we're going to attempt to move the concrete table off the bottom of its mould. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, wooden one. Fortunately, the mould on the wooden table popped off in exactly the same fashion as it did on the concrete one, which was a huge relief. Sides are off. Chapter 1 is done, but we are not out the woods yet. No, we're not, because we've got to get it off the base now. That's what's going to happen next. The plan is to get the base out from underneath this one, put this one in the van so that can then go to the CNC machine, move the concrete one onto the bench without this base, get rid of that base. You can imagine, can't you? So, Mark, come and give us a hand.
It's pretty loose, isn't it?
It is really.
Can we... Well, that was...
Remarkably, apart from my fingers are strapped, but...
That went well.
Oh, it's slippy. Oh, it's like a big bar of soap.
Can we pick it up?
We can pick it up.
It's not bad.
We can pick it up.
Happy days.
Right, Mark, present yourself. This needs to end up here, and this needs to end up down there somewhere. So, shall we see if we can get it? I think it's loose, isn't it?
Will it just slide?
No. Ooh. Apparently Mark's a lot stronger than me. Okay, let's just see if we can pick it up. Oh dear.
We're in trouble.
Oh dear. That is a major problem.
Okay, problem for later.
Try again, we might be stronger now. Right, okay, it does move, it moves, let's just leave it at that. I can report success. We have got the wooden table out of the van into Pete Lavelle's workshop. He's just setting the CNC machine up behind us, and we're going to skim the top. The idea being that we re-expose the oak sides. So we're only taking a little bit off, just a little bit, just a few millimetres, the bare minimum. Then we're going to turn it over, flatten the bottom, put it back in the van, and go back to the workshop. Okay, let's just take a second to thank Pete Lavelle. His willingness to allow us to come back and yet again use his CNC machine to skim our resin table meant that we had an absolutely flawless finish. We have a flat table. I'm smiling because we have had success. It was extremely nerve-wracking, particularly seeing how close to the top of the resin that tape measure was getting, although I think in reality it is a little bit deeper than it looked. Anyway, next job, we're going to flip this whole thing over and repeat the process underneath, which will give us a perfectly parallel resin and oak slab. Oh, it's loads lighter. It's not any lighter. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
You all right? Yeah, I got it. Must be a bit of a relief, is it, to see?
It'll be a relief when it's in Monaco. Once we'd flipped the table over and got it all lined up again, it was just a case of repeating the flattening process on the underside of the table. Okay, final CNC operation. Pete has very kindly offered to dress the sides of our table. He said, whilst you're here, lads, why don't we cut the resin off on the sides, the bit that flowed round in the mould. Let's cut that off on the CNC. It will cut, I think, 70 mil deep. So that'll leave us with a bit of a lip that we're going to take off with a flush trim router bit. It's almost time to start polishing it up. It's also almost time for Milwaukee to come and pick them up, so best to keep moving. So a couple of days has gone by, we've been out on site working on one of our gazebo projects, but today we're back in the workshop and we're going to try as close as we can to get the timber wooden table to a finish. I've painted the bottom of it black. Just felt like the right thing to do to give it a nice finish underneath. If anybody looks, they'll just see black. We've also bolted our legs together. I bought these just off a website. They're incredibly strong. And I'm going around now drawing around where all the pre-welded tabs are so that we can fix the legs to the bottom of our table. After that, we're going to turn it over and start the sanding and polishing project. The fixings for these are quite interesting. I'll show you. So normally with these kind of tables, you'd fix them together, that'd be them done. They'd go to the client's house and stay there. These are different. These are going to Monaco, as you know, and then they're going somewhere else, and then after that, they're going somewhere else. So they've got to be taken apart more times than a regular resin rivet table. So we're going to use these threaded inserts. Essentially, you drill a hole in the timber, in the wood, wind that in with a bit of glue on, and then these cap screws will fix into the threaded insert and hold the legs on. They will come out and go back together as many times as required, rather than just using screws into the oak, which over time will just come a bit loose and a bit wobbly. These, much better solution. So, I've got some holes to drill. Just testing up the fit of our legs. I'm totally convinced everything will be absolutely fine because there was no measurements involved. It was just draw around where the holes were. But it's nice to see that everything does fit. That side is in. Tighten them all up in a minute when I get everything located. It fits, not surprisingly. So we're going to whip those off, pack those up, and then we're going to chamfer with our trim router this underside edge whilst the table's upside down. That is the next job. Underside is done, apart from a little bit of treatment on this oak perimeter here, but I'm going to do that right at the very end in one hit when I treat the oak on the top. So, Mark, come from behind the camera, please. We need to flip this over. Did you have a big breakfast this morning?
I did. I had my Weetabix.
Did you have 4?
I had 6, so hopefully it goes well.
Do it yourself then. Excellent.
The concrete one heavier than that.
The concrete one is, yeah, it is. I'm not going to lie, it's a lot heavier.
You'll have fun lifting that.
We'll worry about. That is on the worry about it later list right now. That is not in my mind. This is what we're working on right now. So, sanding. I feel like I've been waiting for this moment for the last month or more. Well, I have really. So, we're going to sand the whole thing through the grits up to 400 grit, and then we're going to continue going through the grits, but on the resin only. That is so that the stuff that we put on the oak actually gets into the oak. If you over polish the oak, whatever you put on the surface to treat it, to finish it, just won't stick. But the resin has to be super smooth. Go all the way through the grits, and then we'll look at our polishing machine. So the sanding process of these tables was the chapter that I'd been most looking forward to, and at the same time most dreading. I'd been looking forward to it because I knew that we were going to get to see the finished article, but I'd been dreading it because I knew how much time it was going to take. Just keep wiping it in between each pass, in between each grit. Get rid of that dust. You can see it's getting clearer already. Still a long way to go though. So that last pass was 400 grit, which is pretty fine, but not fine enough to give the finish that we're wanting. Also notice that we're using water now. When I polished the bullet up, which some of you might have seen on Instagram, I learned that as you get into the finer and finer grits, using a bit of water just to lubricate the situation is of benefit, so that's what we're doing here. What's the next grit, Mark? 600?
I think so.
600 grit. Incoming, we are getting there, but there's more to do. That last pass was 1000 grit, and the temptation now to get the polisher out and the polishing compound is almost overwhelming, but we're going to resist and we're going to go for 1500, several passes at 1500, and then we'll get the polisher out and see what happens. It will either work and it will come up like glass, which is what we want, or we will realise that we haven't sanded it enough and we'll have to continue through the grits. We've got up to 7,000, but I don't know. I'm pretty convinced. 1500, then onto the polisher, and we should be looking pretty good. Okay, we're halfway convinced that it's ready for polish. We're going to give it a go anyway, see what happens, with the expectation that we're going to probably have to go to 2000 grit just to get rid of any blemishes. But I went on Amazon and I bought myself some epoxy resin polish. So that's what we're going to use. Same as what I used when I was polishing the bullet up. Let's get on with it. So as you know, we're not anything like experienced in this, and what I'm just trying to decide is, do I just need to keep polishing with the polisher and the polishing compound, or do we actually need to go back a step and get the sander back out? So I'm just going to think about that for a few minutes, make a decision, and, well, once I've made a decision, I'll let you know what it is. That's it, decision made. We're going to continue with our sandpaper. It is polishing up, but it is just not quite crystal clear. It just looks a bit cloudy, so more sanding. So that's 4,000 grit, and it feels way different to what we had before we started polishing it last time round. So I'm going to polish this little corner up here before I attack the whole thing and just see if we can get it to the finish that we want. Very, very close. Very, very close. I think we can continue polishing that. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time. So the wooden one got completed off camera. Now moving on to the concrete one. Let's put some time scales on it for you so you can understand how long it took. I was going out to the workshop every night for a full week, 5 days, and spending about 3 hours per evening polishing the table. That sounds like about 15 hours of solid polishing. I really had become very good friends with my polishing machine. Today is January the 15th. Which means the 20th is not far away, which is a problem because there's still 3 things to do. We have to fit the legs to the concrete table, which is now looking shiny. We have to treat the oak on the wooden table, and we have to package them up ready for shipping to Monaco. The package crates have been ordered by Milwaukee. They arrive here at the workshop tomorrow. We're going to think about how we're going to move that concrete table because we still haven't moved it yet. We've got to turn it over to get the legs mounted. We're going to think about that probably tomorrow, but right now I'm going to go ahead and get the first layer of wax on the oak. We're going with this Mylands wax. It needs building up in 2 or 3 layers. The more the merrier. So I'm going to crack on. The reason I've chosen this is because it dries very quickly. We haven't got time for oils or anything else to dry. We just need it to go on and be dry quickly. And I've also chosen this because it goes on quickly. That's a lot of reasons why I've chosen it, most of them hinging on the fact it's quick. So on it goes. So overnight I have put a total of 4 layers of wax on the wooden table. The wooden table has already been mounted to its legs. We turned it over, we put the legs on top, we made the holes, we fitted it up. That one was no drama. Turning that over, no problem. This one, Mark and I have come up with a plan. We don't fancy turning it over. We don't fancy it. So we've assembled the legs. We are gonna pick it up. We're gonna pick it up, drop it onto it, not drop it, carefully place it onto its legs, and then work from underneath. Mark, drill our holes and put our threaded inserts in. More on that shortly. What I'm hoping is that Mark is going to tell me that he had 6 Weetabix this morning for breakfast. How many did you have? None. Mark's had no breakfast, so his strength is... Well, you haven't got a choice, pal. You need to be ready.
Not worried about me.
There's nothing wrong with my arms, but this is going to put them on the limit. Anyway, camera on the tripod. Mark is going to go to that end. Whew, it's going on. It's happening. Let's do it. Let's just have a trial. Let's just pick it up. Have you got anything sharp in your pockets?
Yeah. It's heavy. Come on then.
Right.
Just mind that. The planer.
Yeah, mind the planer. Mind the planer.
Easy. Don't know what you were worried about.
It's like the stars disappear that I'm seeing. Right, we need to shuffle it around now, get it positioned perfectly on its base. Then we can go underneath. Welcome to the underside of the concrete table. So the plan is to use this small masonry bit in our cordless drill on hammer action and just make a mark where each of these tabs are, where the screws are going to go. Then we're going to move the table so that we can get access to those holes properly and drill a bigger hole. The reason we're putting a little pilot bit in is so that when we put the big masonry bit in, it doesn't jump and wander, which these things have a tendency to do because this needs to be very accurate. So there's a few little pilot holes to do. let's get on with that. Right, let's get it shuffled over. As with many of the things that we've done through the journey of making these tables, this next process is quite nerve-wracking because the SDS is a big one, it's pretty brutal, and well, I don't even want to talk about what happens if the table cracks because the table's not going to crack, so let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. It's at times like this that you think, I wonder what would have happened if I'd have done more homework at school. Probably wouldn't be underneath a quarter of a ton's worth of concrete table drilling holes, would I? Woo! Get me out of there. Threaded inserts. So we're going to resin, epoxy resin, slightly different kind of resin to what we've made the tables out of. We're going to epoxy resin these into the holes that we've just drilled. They are hollow, so we've taped the end up so that we don't get epoxy in amongst the threads that we're going to have to wind our cap screws in. That would be bad. So, bit of no-nonsense 5-minute epoxy, mix it up in equal parts, put some on the threads, wind them in. That's how that's going to happen. We drilled that hole so that the teeth on the threaded insert just grabbed into the concrete. They're not really designed to cut into concrete, but a little bit is fine. So it's pulled itself in, but it's the epoxy that's going to do the heavy lifting that's going to actually keep it in there. I think that's worked very nicely. We have got our packing crates. Milwaukee have very kindly supplied us with 2 custom-sized packing crates, which is down here. We've put a dust sheet in the bottom. We're going to, say we because I'm not doing it on my own, Mark and I are going to put the wooden table in its crate. We've already got some bearers underneath. Then we've got to work out how we package the legs and keep it still and keep it damage-free between here and Monaco. So the end is in sight. Right, this is a tight squeeze around here for me. Your finger, I don't think your fingers are going to fit down that edge. You need to be on the end.
You don't think?
No, it's only 2 inches wider either side. And your hands are made of steak. It's in! So now we've got to stop it moving side to side. We've got to stop it moving fore and aft. Is that the right term, Mark?
Yeah.
Anyway, that way. We've also got to hold it down. We've also got to put the legs in. And Milwaukee have asked if they can borrow, for the duration of the dealer conference, the comedy-sized mallet. So that's either got to go in this pallet or the other one. I think it ought to go in this one, personally. Right, let's get packing. We have very cunningly wedged the tabletop in its crate with 8 blocks of wood screwed through the crate from the outside. So that now cannot shuffle in any direction. Next job. Layer of cardboard, and then table legs and the bits that are associated with them. Then we can screw the lid on it. Next stop, Monaco. Ta-da! Doesn't fit.
It's a problem.
That is a problem, it doesn't fit. Right, plan B, let's formulate that. So, underneath the table, we'd put some tongue and groove, 2 layers of tongue and groove. What we've done is reduce that to 1 layer of tongue and groove, thereby lowering everything, thereby allowing the legs, which is a fairly critical component of the tables, to go in the crate, and the comedy-sized mallet fits as well. So we're going to screw the lid on it, and then we're going to repeat the process on the concrete one. It's quite a momentous occasion, this. Mark and I have built a very, very strong relationship with these tables. It's been an absolute emotional roller coaster, but we got to the end. We have got to the end. So we're strong enough to lift the table onto its legs, and we're strong enough to lift the table back onto the workbench, but what we still don't know how to do is get the now crated concrete table off the bench and onto the floor. Well, there's absolutely no way I'm lifting that concrete table off this bench, so I've drafted in some help. You'll see. Hello, mate. Come on. Right, backwards. That'll do. Now go on. January 22nd, we got an extra couple of days grace. The van is here to pick the tables up. Today is the end of what has been a very enjoyable but somewhat stressful chapter. Pallets are going in the truck. They're getting driven down to Loughborough to get put on a different vehicle to go to Monaco, as I've said countless times before. So one of them's already on, second one's about to go in. See you in a couple of weeks' tables.
Easy.
Okay, so Mark, who is behind the camera, and myself have made it all the way to Monaco. We've spent the day wandering around the Milwaukee conference. We've had eyes on and hands on all of the latest and greatest tech. One of the reasons that we've come is to see the tables that we've made, that you've watched me make, or watched us make throughout this whole video. This is the culmination of a lot of effort and hard graft and passion. And if you look behind me, you can see probably that people are sat at one of the tables using it. But we're going to go take a look now and maybe see if we can get some reactions. Who knows? But it's very exciting. These tables have gone all the way from North Yorkshire to Monaco, and now we're here to see them. There's a meeting happening at the wooden table, so we're not going to interrupt that. But the concrete table over there, there's no one sat at that at the moment, so let's go take a look at that. I'm smiling because it's kind of like I feel reunited with it. I spent so many hours, days, weeks staring at these tables. To see them in the final resting place it's very special. It's not quite tear-jerking, but close to it. They look fantastic. They've survived the journey. They got driven on a wagon for hundreds and hundreds of miles, and they've made it to the Milwaukee conference. And rumour has it, they've been very well received, and lots of business has been done over them. So this is the concrete table with all of its drill bits sat in its natural environment, in its happy place amongst all the other concrete-based Milwaukee accessories. There's still some guys having what looks like quite an important meeting over the wooden table, so as soon as there's a break, as soon as there's an opportunity to go over there, we'll go over there and take a look at the wooden table. Business meeting has finished, wooden table is over there, come and have a look. Reunited, the hours of polishing and sanding and pouring and just watching the resin cure, honestly, it's crazy to think back to before Christmas when I was in that freezing cold workshop making molds, as you've just seen on this video, pouring resin over and over and over again. Now they're in Monaco. That's a crazy set of circumstances. So thank you very much for watching, folks. Thank you for coming on this crazy journey of making these epoxy resin tables. It has been an absolute roller coaster. If you've enjoyed it, now would be a really good time to subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.